presentation also sets the context for what I'm going to talk about. So just for the benefit of those of you who are new to this session, I will just run through what I did yesterday in 5 minutes to 10 minutes, and then that will set the context right for this presentation, what I'm going to do today. So for those of you who are new to me, my name is Finny. I work as an endocrinologist and a physician at the Believers Church Medical College Hospital in Kerala in South India. I've been there for over 8 years, and prior to that, I was working in North India on the Indo-Nepal border in a state called Bihar, one of the poorest states of India, for about 8 years, and had my training at the Christian Medical College Vellore prior to that, and that's when we moved in here. So it's a joy to be with all of you today. It's a big group. I don't think we have enough time for introductions today, unlike yesterday, so we will just go ahead into the presentation. The first presentation I did yesterday was called Medical Education and Missions, and I shared a little bit of my life story and how this presentation came about. And so I shared about how I discovered my calling as a medical teacher during my training period and my undergraduate and postgraduate training through experiences which I had of training my own classmates, and thereafter my seniors assigning me responsibilities to be into teaching, which was something I discovered as I did it better and better, that I was reasonably able to present difficult concepts clearly, and it was being appreciated as a teacher in Vellore. And thereafter, in various locations where I worked, both in Odinchhatram in Tamil Nadu and thereafter in Bihar, I sensed that that is a calling on my life to be a teacher. And we worked in the northern part of India, in Bihar, in Roxol. That's a town on the border of India and Nepal. And we worked there for close to 8 years as a family, where the Christian presence is less than 0.1%. And so we truly had the opportunity as a team to be salt and light as medical missionaries there, and working closely with the mission organization called Emmanuel Hospital Association. We used to have very few junior doctors at one stage, but because this hospital became reasonably well known as a teaching place for young doctors who are fresh in training, many youngsters used to join us, and thereafter we had regular teaching sessions for them, and that attracted more and more young doctors from across the country, especially many of them when they fresh graduates had not had enough experience. And so working with a team of us who were senior doctors helped them to become mentored. They were wonderful, lively Christians, but just needed more skilling and professional building up. And that's what we did primarily, but what happened in the process was that many of them later on stepped up to become leaders. Today, many of my mentees are there in many of the EHA mission network hospitals as leaders and leading the excellent work going on. You heard some of you did come for the postgraduate diploma family medicine online courses being done by Vellore. We were one of the partners for education there in Bihar, sitting at the corner of one part of our state. But we had the opportunity to train many government doctors who used to be posted to our hospital for training in basic family medicine. And that experience really led to a lot of personal connections with many senior doctors who were in the elite in the society. And many of them came and trained, and many of them felt they experienced a lot of Christian values in practice. We had many exciting stories to share, and in fact that opened up doors for many of them to receive the gospel. Many of our senior doctors were wanting to know why we were serving in this far-flung area of India, and they realized it's due to the faith which is inspiring us, and many of them wanted to know the reason and took Bibles, and I did talk about it yesterday in detail. Most of us in India, Christian missionaries used to tend to focus on the lower caste, the Dalits communities, but this is an opportunity to reach out to the elites in society. Doctors were very influential, and many of them came to us, and that is a beautiful opportunity to reach out to this community. And many of them asked us this question in the last but one line. It says, why are you so content? Why are you so joyful? Even though you could have been comfortable in Kerala or in another part of Gulf or in the US, you had many opportunities. Why did you choose? And they asked that question, and that led us to give the reason for our faith and our experiences. And in the process of our being there for 8 to 10 years, we were able to mentor many youngsters who took on the baton and who are running the race now, and are a great support to our mission network of hospitals where we were involved in. And whenever God's love fills you, it's bound to splash over into other people's lives. And these are some of the chaplains who partnered with us. It's not one person's job. Many of us work together in this place. We had an Australian lady called Lois Armstrong who heard about this work and helped us in research, which is something which we never thought of getting into, but research on topics which are critical for kingdom building, on problems of the poor which are not highlighted often in the medical journals. And this is Lois, who came and worked with us for 8 years and got us to get published many of the issues which we poor people face in our part of this world. Of course, nursing education was also happening there. We also partnered with mission agencies like the Indian Evangelical Mission. These are Bible translators who were able to come there because there was a good base hospital doing a credible work. And many of them got opportunities to learn the language in the nearby villages and produce a version of the translation of the Bible into Bhojpuri language. That's one of the village churches about 15 years ago. And you, being a medical doctor, you're a scientist, right? But most of the scientific work is focused on the problems of the developed world. But to focus on topics which are not very well talked about, particularly steroid misuse is very common in our areas. And this is one of the first publications in that part of India on steroid misuse in rural areas of North India. And we had collaborations with our colleagues in Vellore, as well as my team members who did this study. This is a publication later on in one of the British journals about how it's very common, rampant steroid misuse in northern parts of Bihar. And even now it appears. And then we wrote in the lay media, in the Telegraph newspaper is well known in eastern India, about how steroid use is unregulated and it's leading to a lot of problems, and it's like a huge issue which is unaddressed. And then we realized the youngsters don't read newspapers anymore, so we had to get some of this published in the electronic media about steroid overuse behind many of the diseases like diabetes and hypertension in the towns. And then we realized a lot of admissions were increasing in our hospital because the hospital had a reputation that people who take deliberate self-harm due to poisons survive if they come here. And so we became very popular, but we said that's not enough. We need to get to the root causes of why people attempt suicide. And this is a young lady who took poison. Organophosphorus poison is an agricultural poison. She took it to kill herself due to a conflict she had between her relatives and some deeper issues which were there. And we were not having the time as doctors. We were struggling to keep her alive on the ventilator. She was surviving by the grace of God. And thereafter, we had psychologists to counsel her, our chaplains praying for her. And many of these families heard the good news when the recovery process, as well as their families. So God gave us beautiful windows into lives of people in that region through this time. And this is a publication in the Christian Journal of Global Health, which is a well-known journal in the Christian circles, about how family conflicts, not farmer suicide due to bankruptcy, not due to money, but interpersonal conflicts in the milieux there, which leads to many attempted suicides. And this is a study on about 250 women who attempted suicide in our area. And then we said that's not enough. We need to get to the root of the problem. Of course, we knew the gospel is the answer, but we needed to find out the other issues. For example, many of them had alcoholic husbands who were probably leading to many of these women attempting suicides. So we formed a community mental health team and a suicide prevention program there to identify the high risk factors, why people attempt suicide, and try to nip it in the bud stage. This is a skit and a drama happening in the village as a result of the experiences we had with them, and we realize it's just fulfilling the verse which is given in the Bible saying we must be the voice for those who cannot speak and speaking up for the rights of those who are destitute. And of course, I don't know how many of you get scared when you see snakes. We had snake bites every day to be contend with when we were there, and this is some of the common snakes which came to our hospital along with the patients. But our research on snake bite and the preventions, how you can save people from dying from snake bites, was often preventative measures, like getting them quickly to the hospital. We realized that often people didn't come to the hospital because they had problems in getting transport. And this led to a publication as well in the Christian Journal of Global Health on human snake and environmental factors in the human-snake conflict. And this was collaborative work which we did. And finally, we realized that this snake bite work which we did was recognized by the World Health Organization and the Southeast Asia guidelines on page 10. If you could read through it, you will find the Duncan Hospital protocols and how you can prevent deaths due to snake bite and some of the simple things people can do out in the community. And so our medical knowledge converted to practical guidelines for people in Southeast Asia was published, and the Oxford University gave us an opportunity to come over to the UK and present this work. And also finally, my colleague Lois wrote a tract for snake bite victims who survive. We have over 600 admissions a year, right? So all of them got attracted and finally a chance to share about the one who was lifted up, like the snake Moses lifted up in the desert. So that is a translation of the medical skills and knowledge God has given us into finally trying to lead them to the Lord Jesus Christ, who is the source of salvation. And finally, I talked about my young mentees, some of them, one of them, Dr. Rao, is a person who was a young junior doctor who worked with me 10 years ago. Today, he's a gynecologist of one of the largest hospitals in EHA in Assam. And he's looking after, there are 6,000 deliveries a year. Every day, there are 25 to 30 women delivering there. But he is providing important leadership there in that department and mentoring many young people. The second I talked about is Dr. Mahika, a young student of ours at Believers Church. She was not from a Christian background. She came here, but somehow she had something in her wanting to seek after truth. She used to come to the fellowship in our college. But along the way, because of what I'm going to talk about now, the secondary hospital program, she went and worked in Maharashtra. And she heard the gospel even more lucidly there. And last week, I pulled out her WhatsApp status. And you know what it says here? Can you read it? It says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. She's not from our Christian faith background, but I think the Lord has led her. And my colleague, Dr. Ashita, tells me, I think, Philip, she's just on the verge now of declaring her faith. It's just a little bit more. She just needs a little more courage to come forward, maybe because of the strong pressure in the family. She works for the government sector today in Gujarat, but she's a lovely young lady who's obviously imbibed the Spirit, what we want her to. And we have two youngsters who have served for more than 2 years in our mission hospital in Bihar, Dr. Ansi and Merin, our graduates who chose without any bond or compulsions, choosing to go and work. And why did Ansi and Merin and many of these people choose to work is what I'm going to talk about today in my presentation on leveraging medical innovation. So another group went to the Duncan Hospital in Roxol, Bihar. It's on the Indo-Nepal border where I worked for 8 years. And this is a hospital which is very strategically located, started by Scottish missionaries for the aim for reaching Nepal. When Nepal was a closed Hindu kingdom many years ago, the missionaries thought it wise to sit in India and reach out to Nepal because people would come across the porous border and for health care. And so I'll show you the picture as well, yeah. So this is all some snapshots of the children there. And the middle picture, you see the girl saying the victory sign? That is actually street children for which once a week the consultants in the Duncan Hospital will give them a free meal and do some activities, craft and things like that. So our medical students also got involved with the street children. And for many of them, it is the first time in their life ever having to deal with children on the street who are brought in and given a good afternoon. One afternoon in the week is a good time for these children. And many of them, all these slides and pictures have been presented by our students when they came. So I just borrowed these pictures to show you all and how some of these pictures, as they say, a picture conveys 1,000 words, right? These are all pictures which put up as a collage to show you how the students have been influenced. Can you see the joy on the little young medical student when she had a baby? She was involved in delivering that baby, I assume. This is the village visits. We had a young orthopedic surgeon who joined us 6 months ago, Dr. Jobin. He joined our hospital saying that he wanted to go to the mission field. We said, first, get ready at the base, and at the right opportune moment, we'll send you with the students. And Jobin went there and spent some time with the team. The center picture is the entire Duncan Hospital team who mentored our medical students when they were there. They went for some village visits, which you can see as well. Yeah. Will it play this? So for those of you who have not come to Roxol, I hope these videos will also entice you, perhaps, to come and consider making a visit. This is the largest hospital in the network of mission hospitals. Thank you, brother. So this is a fairly old mission hospital, 85 years old. That's the consultant physician there, Dr. Sheena. Children assisting our doctors for the cesarean section. Very busy nursery, and Dr. Blessy, the pediatrician there, as well as Dr. Yanraj, looking after. That's one of our postgraduates who went from Believers. There's another postgraduate who went to do help in gynecology work there. So when you provide opportunities like this for young students, you never can predict what will be the outcome, right? And you can perhaps sometimes develop mission-driven leaders. And medical schools and hospitals are great training areas, but if you can channel the training in a nice way, I'm sure like in seminaries, if you can think of ways, we said that we have to have a lot of theological students coming also for exposure before they graduated.
And that is also a life-changing experience, many of them. And our prayer used to be, before these children go for SHP, Lord, may this be a life-changing experience. That's what many of us in the back end are doing. We are praying as these trips go, Lord, change the hearts. You never know. One experience can change a person's life's direction completely. And that is the prayer with which we soak this program in prayer. So that when these children go, Holy Spirit is at work. He will touch the hearts of these youngsters. And we don't know what the effect is. And so we invested in these young Christian medics. And we also rang up our friends like Matthew and others in the EHA saying, Matthew, take care of them like your own children. One of my friends in Nagaland, Dr. Sedevi Angami, he lives in Nagaland, which is in the northeast part. He says, Philip, if you look after these children like your own children, I'm sure many of them will come to the saving knowledge of Christ. But are we able to look after them? Will we pour out all into these kids is the challenge in front of us. And similarly, if in whichever settings you are, maybe theological institutes or seminaries, can we look after them like our own children? And my friends and my colleagues in various locations in EHA and other hospitals in Orissa, they looked after them when they were there for 2 weeks. And some of the children came back and told me, sir, I've never felt so much loved as when I've come back. I felt so loved when I went there. I experienced, suddenly I have a new zest for studying. I had lost interest in studying, they told me after 3 years. But suddenly I felt a desire to study better, to become a better doctor. Isn't that wonderful? That's the first step. And then maybe we'll talk about the spiritual change. But first, to see a change. Some of them felt very bored and not very enthusiastic in studies. But this secondary hospital program gave them another desire to study well and to do well. And they saw ethics and practice that reflected kingdom values. Every evening we used to tell the senior doctors, please call them over for a post-dinner chat, give them some nice cake or ice cream or something. I used to tell them that is a strategy. And they come over for a cake and ice cream and coffee, and they throw their hair down and they have. And this is all planned, the informal sessions. Because the doctors are busy in the day, they are shadowing the doctors on the rounds, the nurses on the rounds. The nurses were extra sweet to them. They used to help them do the deliveries, do the suturing. And these children felt, oh, we don't feel capable, but our nurses trusted us. No? And they were able to do things. And in the evenings, many of our senior doctors shared their life stories with them. In fact, when they went to Herbertpur, I heard there were some Western missionaries who had also been there for that fellowship, who shared their life story, and they shared the gospel with these children. So they got an opportunity to hear the gospel. So you don't know, when you commit it to the Lord, the Lord will take it in some other direction, which will happen. And so the faith work integration and why many of these people are serving where they are doing. This is another hospital in Bihar. Again, one of the poorest regions with 60% poverty, 99% illiteracy is what the statistics, the students found out. These are all slides I didn't prepare. The students have prepared. Generally, we know Bihar is poorly limited. They saw diseases like tuberculosis and leprosy, which they would never see in Kerala, because we hardly see these problems, because these are diseases not of the developed world at all, right? And then they saw women trafficking happening. So they presented about human trafficking. I didn't realize that many women would be trafficked from the poorer parts of India to Bombay, to the red light areas, and they will be this trafficking. And this particular hospital was a little different. They didn't just focus only on health. They got into measures by which we can block human trafficking. They formed self-help groups where women can be stopped at the points where they are trafficked. And the children, our medical students who saw that, said they presented about human trafficking as an issue. And these are all social determinants of health. And these things, you cannot teach them. Just values, they say, cannot be taught. They are caught. Right? They saw these doctors going beyond, going the extra mile, due to their Christian faith convictions, going and getting involved in social issues. There's a community college where they teach them in Madhipura a lot of skills for life, skills development. So all these things spoke volumes to our children, and when they made this particular presentation. They also found that many people were affected by the floods, and they have a rescue village program. So these children got an opportunity to see the village programs happening there. And these are all the pictures which the Madhipura group sent us in the presentation. How they got to do surgeries, how they got to fondle babies. And that young lady in the third picture is feeling the large thickened nerve of a patient with leprosy, which she would never feel in Kerala, because leprosy is almost wiped out from the developed world. And these are all small children who belong to an underprivileged community called not the Dalits, but the Mahadalits or the Musahar community. Have you heard of the word Musahar? Musahar means rats. And many of them actually, that is their non-vegetarian source of protein. Can you see? Roasting rats and eating. That shows the levels of poverty. And this picture gripped the hearts of many of our students, and they were all shaken. They couldn't imagine, no? And I remember in Roxall when many of them couldn't afford to buy chicken. We have chicken here available so freely. They used to catch these white herons. In the fields, there used to be small cranes, white one. That is their chicken because they will get it free of cost. No, they will catch them through various methods. And this is the Musahas of Bihar, people who live in real poor situations. So this is the Madhipura group which sent this video. We'd asked them all to make short videos. They're actually 5-minute videos, but we just abridged it for this session. These are students going for their village visits. That is also part of the trip. It's not just being in the hospital, but half the time they go to the villages and the rural areas. The women's self-help rooms. So that led this undergraduate experience of sending our students for mission exposure led to a desire, why don't we send our postgraduate? We have postgraduate training programs, people doing MD in gynecology, general medicine, and pediatrics, and other subjects. And recently, we sent our first batch of postgraduates who finished their MD gynecology program. For 6 months, it took a lot of making the heads of departments to accept that this is important. So our head of department kindly said, okay, now students have done their course, they're done with their exams. She encouraged her two students who finished their MD exams, why don't you go to Bihar? And you'll get a lot of hands-on training. The attraction is that you will get a lot of hands-on experience. Like in Kerala, a postgraduate student will not be allowed to do a cesarean section without supervision. I mean, both our candidates had done about 3 or 4 cesarean sections, which is a very important surgery for a gynecologist to do. But when these two children, Aparna and Aishwarya, went there, they have done 3 cesareans every week they are doing. That is the number of volumes which they are doing. And today, one of them has decided to stay there, and she's brought her husband from Bangalore as well to come and work with her. So they've got for 1+, you get buy one, get one free, sort of, as we say in India. So we sent our gynecology postgraduate there, and her husband, a pediatrician, has also joined the team at Roxall. And the Roxall team is overjoyed that we have 2 doctors who have come to help us. And we are thankful to the Believers Church for facilitating such programs so that the mission field, many of them are skeleton staff. They are stretched to the limit. And so having even one more doctor straight away means your work is halved. And so it has made a huge difference to them. And most of our students at Believers, unlike in Vellore, I had a bond for 2 years where I had to work. Of course, many of us overstayed our bonds, stayed on for longer periods. But here, without any compulsion, about 5 to 10% of our students go and work. From our first batch of students, of whom Mahika is one, 8% went voluntarily to serve in these rural hospitals because of the positive experiences they had during their student days, of going, experiencing the realities. And of course, their attraction was they will get practical experience. But for us, the value add-on was they will hear about the Lord and see what Christian work is all about. And perhaps some of them will draw closer to the Lord. So this is another hospital in Odisha. Odisha is also one of the poorest states of India, like Bihar, with the poorest maternal mortality, infant mortality. This is a hospital founded by 3 doctors. 3 doctor couples went and started this hospital in rural Orissa. Orissa is on the eastern part of India, and this is 3 couples, and they started in a rented mud hut, which grew to a key healthcare facility for the Lamtaput block. And I put the statement for you to remember, values are caught, not taught. As theological teachers, as seminarians, we remember people are always watching us, right? And what we exhibit and what we say is often what is imbibed by our students. So this is the pictures from the Asha Kiran team. Our young girl, she's a very lively young medical student. You can see that she's already figured in 2 or 3 of those pictures. But she said the joy of holding a newborn baby, she was able to experience when she was in Orissa, really, because many, many deliveries happen there every day. And this is all with some of the street children. They had some ministry. So this is Orissa, rural Orissa, for some of you who have not seen. We usually send a faculty also. One of the faculty members go along with the students. So they also get a good experience. And our children dancing along with the tribal women. Many of them have never seen cattle firsthand, so you can see the joy they had to fondle. So they have only seen dairy, milk vending machines, but not the real source of it. I've written the first statement. One of the young girls in her feedback session 3 years ago told me that she saw women's child not being valued as one of the learnings or the reflections. She said that I had never realized, I'm so glad I was born as a girl in Kerala, in South India, rather than a girl in Bihar. Because very often a male child is highly valued as a female child in many of the poorer parts of our country. And so she said, when the mother after delivery will be very keen to know, is it a boy or a girl? And if it's a boy, her face will light up. If it's a girl, face goes down. And she said, I couldn't understand why is that, because in Kerala people are valued equally. But within the same country, so many different ways. And there are various reasons for it. It's a very layered, multi-layered, complex reason. It's not a simplistic answer. But women have to keep delivering till they have a boy child. And so it's sometimes she said, oh, I don't realize that women are not so valued. These are the biggest learning for her at the end of the 2 weeks. So she learned the dignity of life and the value of life. And because of this, they also, in many of these mission hospitals, they don't do any, their day's work started with prayer. They go into operation theater. Before they operate, they have a word of prayer. So these children, I've never seen that in many of the government hospitals. People just start off the surgery straight away. Prayer layering every part of our life, permeating into every aspect. And that is how God's strength can be perceived. And they say there are no super specialists in any of these hospitals, but the outcomes are so good. And they saw the power of God working through these committed young doctors and senior doctors there in these mission hospitals. They said we can do medicine so differently with low cost for the poorer sections of society. And many of them did comment in their feedback, we never saw doctors who are so happy, even though they are in rural parts of our country. Why are they so joyful? These are questions only when they see it, they can ask these. So this is another part of Uttar Pradesh is a biggest state of India. They say that if Uttar Pradesh were to become a country, it will be the 5th largest country in the world. All right? So you can imagine India is a country with a country of countries. No? So this is one of our groups which went to one of the poorer areas in Sonbhadra, Uttar Pradesh. But many British and American missionaries many years ago came and started this hospital. But now it's being run by indigenous Indian doctors. And this is the group which went to Robertsganj. And you can see on the pillow, these children are learning how to do suturing of the skin. So they're practicing there, which was something which they enjoyed. They saw advanced tuberculosis. You can see in that particular chest x-ray there. And children, first time they had a thrill of assisting a surgeon by doing surgery. So you can see the joy. The first time I did a cesarean or a surgery was in the mission hospital. I can never forget that. It leaves a deep imprint in your heart. So I believe all 100 children had that many first time experiences, which has probably cemented their reason why they're doing medicine. This is a picture which they showed, which really touched my heart. No? They said, some looks that melted our heart. That's what the students said. Just the eye, the brightness of the eye of this girl. Look at the innocent look of the little boy. And these are pictures which our students captured, which really, speaks much about how each of us are so precious in the sight of God. We are created in God's image. We may look a little different. Some of us may be a little more beautiful by worldly standards, some may be less beautiful, but still, we are all precious in the sight of God. To learn the value of God's creation was, I think, a beautiful lesson our children learned, just sometimes by taking them to a different context. Palliative care work is a big need in Kerala. You would be hearing, I think my wife would be making a presentation in the next session. But what I realized is that palliative care is being practiced, but in rural parts of India, palliative care is unheard of. Actually, we were one of the first to set up a palliative care program 10 years ago in Bihar, because people they keep spending money till the last minute, hoping that the patient will survive, and they go bankrupt. In fact, 1/3 of people in India who go below the poverty line do so because of a hospital admission. A catastrophic health expenditure leads them to, they're just about hovering by a hand-to-mouth existence, and suddenly one major hospitalization gets them into debt. And many of the loan sharks charge 60% interest. I remember my housemaid in Bihar, who I used to work, one day her daughter's engagement came. She didn't have immediately money. She cannot go and get a proper loan from the bank. You need a lot of documents. So she goes to these money lenders, or the loan sharks as we call them. You know what they say, interest? These women are not smart in calculating. For every 100 rupees I give you a loan, give me 5 rupees interest per month. Can you see? We all can do the math fast, right? So 5 rupees interest for 100 rupees that you take as a loan per month. If you calculate for a year, on that same 100 rupees, how much is it? 60 rupees, right? So she takes 5,000 rupees, The interest she has to pay is 3,000 rupees. That's 60% interest. And that's how, and the moneylender is very happy for them to keep paying the interest. No need to pay back the principal. And many of these people keep paying the interest, and it takes a long time before they can pay back the full money. And our children, many of them didn't realize that this is how they get emergency funding when they have a problem. And so many of them, when they have cancer, they can't even think of going to the hospital because they'll be going further into bankruptcy if they were to take them to a hospital. And so this is some of the visits of our students going and caring for elderly people in their homes as part of the palliative care visits. This is where Dr. Matthew, who's seated in the audience, Matthew, you can put up your hand for the sake of others. Matthew is the managing director of Herbertpur Hospital for the last many years. Matthew has been serving here, and it is a hospital founded in 36 by Dr. Jeffrey Lehman and his wife Monica Lehman. And Dr. Lehman was initially trained as an engineer at Oxford University, but when he came to India, he realized the need for medicine. He went back and trained as an ophthalmologist. And he came back, and his wife, Monica, and she continued to serve the community here. And this is all hands-on procedures which our children got to do under the supervision of Dr. Matthew and his entire team. They looked after these children like their own children. And this is some of the pictures of them assisting in various surgeries, orthopedic surgeries, I think. And that's a picture which many of our children have never traveled in trains. They only go by flights. No? They got quite well to do. So first time they had an experience of going by railways. The Indian railways are quite good, actually. I've travelled a lot in there. But one of their pictures in this videos was how it was the experience of travelling on a train. This is a community clinic, Shifa, into which our students captured that visit to the village. Shifa, a mental health needs clinic. It's a clinic for people with mental health needs. This is a disabilities program which is run for children with special needs. The Joy on Children with Down syndrome. Can you see that? And they also had a bit of a holiday. They went to the nearby hill resort. That's one of our faculty who took them around, Dr. Joseph John. They went for a trek there, and Dr. Joseph teaching them about fauna and flora as well in that area. So for our faculty also, it's a bit of a change it was. And this is, I'm going to close with the last two hospitals. We have just got another 10 minutes to finish. This is a hospital in heart of India called Chhattisgarh, otherwise called Madhya Pradesh, it was called before. And some of our students went there to Chhattisgarh. This is another visit to a hospital in Maharashtra, 50-bed hospital. So it is serving a particular tribal group called the Bhil tribal community. And they saw a lot of palliative care and sickle cell anemia, very, very specific problem which they see in the tribal areas. That's how their children labeled it, Chinchpada Diaries. This is one of our joyful students, Jocelyn, who's prepared this video with her friends. You can see the hospitals, the buildings don't look very modern, but there's a lot of life within those buildings. So our students scrubbing up for a surgery. That's Jocelyn and her team. That's a patient who has had a cardiac arrest. They have intubated and they are That's rural Maharashtra or the tribal parts of not little away from Mumbai. Learning the traditional customs there. And so many of them, we realize when we send our children, many of them learn that it's important for someday them to become voices for those who cannot speak for themselves, as we learn in Proverbs, and to uphold the value of life from conception to old age in policies and practice. And finally, we sent one group who were very scared. The parents wouldn't allow them to go to North India. They were very scared. So we had a small group of students who decided to go to South India, a little bit not willing to step out of the comfort zone, right? And so we said, don't worry, we'll send you to another mission hospital also, which is thriving in South India. So we had this group called the Tamil Nadu group. Actually, they were children who really wanted to go, but their parents wouldn't allow them. So we said, okay, that's all. We'll work around that problem as well. And we sent them to another thriving mission hospital in Odanchatram, where we had 55 to 60 years ago. It was founded there. Myself and Matthew worked there many years ago as young doctors. And every evening, some of our senior docs, you can see this. This is the son of the founder, Dr. Sushil and Valsatarian. They are graduates from Velo who have served there for their whole lives. Dr. Sijoy, one of our physicians, Dr. Paul, a gynecologist, and Dr. Anish, one of the palliative care physicians. All of them, evenings, they used to take the children into their homes and tell them their whole life story. Why have they stayed on in these places? And nothing speaks more powerfully than their life testimony. And every evening in all these centers, most of our senior doctors spend time out of their family times to inspire these children. And many times it is stories of brokenness and pain as well, which these children listen to. I am sure that has left deep impressions. The fruits of it we will see perhaps in eternity. Our job is to keep casting our bread upon the waters, right? And that's the last video, and we're closing with this. That's the Odanchatram group presenting about their trip, again on the train for the first time, many of them. That's the outpatient. It's actually the largest Christian mission hospital in Tamil Nadu, about 1,500 to 2,000 patients a day. And if you see, the people here are not very literate, so they have numbers for every OP. They can't tell them go to cardiology outpatient. They go to room number 137 and things like that. That's the chapel, which is at the center of most of these mission hospitals have a chapel. So many of these children who are from different faith backgrounds also get to go and attend the worship service every morning. So that's during the 2 weeks that becomes a ritual. So they see Christian short messages, some thought for the day also being given to them. And that's Professor Nainan Shako, who is the professor of urology at Velo, who's now working with us. He was the faculty who took these children. And he took a lot of extra effort. Many unconventional people we have in our team, we may never expect, they are the ones who will inspire. Some of the children said they learned so much from Professor Nainan. He taught them the basics of suturing. He taught them, and the first time somebody took so much of interest in teaching them. And it is remarkable to listen to the stories of these children. And that's Professor Nainan here. And finally, this is my last slide. So it's a call to action. We respond to God's mission through medicine and various innovative ideas like the secondary hospital, which is nothing new really for us, because we had seen that in other institutions. But for Kerala, it was it's a novelty to have a medical curriculum where we could tweak things around a little bit within the permission of the authorities to try and encourage missionary enterprise. As Dr. Shah says, promoting medical missionary enterprise, that is his goal in life. We want to encourage more people to step out of their comfort zones and to go out. And when we mentor these children, we don't know the effects, but I think the fruits will be there for us to see. So thank you very much for your patient listening. I hope you can replicate this in your own theological seminaries, in some other ways, by which we will have the kingdom being built in the days to come. So we have 5 minutes more. I think any of you have any questions, I'm happy to take them. Yes?
Just a curious question, but first of all, we'd like to thank you for sharing your story. Very outstanding and very inspiring. Thank you for what you are doing. It inspires us. My question is, in India, I understand that your Prime Minister is a very militant Hindu and would like to push for Hindu in everything. How do you deal with persecution, perhaps, or restrictions of sharing the gospel, and perhaps gain insight on how we deal with persecution or restrictions in our context as well?
Thank you, brother, for that comment and for that question. It is very true, as at this point, we are facing major pressure in the northern parts of our country in terms of the freedom to share the gospel. Even what we are, under the constitution, we are allowed to freely share, propagate the faith, but that is also being attacked by religious fundamentalists. So we can use our human wisdom, but it's really we have to pray that God will protect us. Some of our team members have faced challenges. In some of our hospitals, we have had them coming in and disrupting the work. But we need to do it wisely. For example, in the Duncan Hospital, we used to have open ward prayers till recently. But we decided we will not have open ward prayers, but we will make it more a one-to-one prayer. So when you make things, we had a team from one of the fundamentalist groups barged into the hospital one day at the Roxall saying that, why are you preaching the gospel loudly? We are allowed to do it. It was being done for the last 75 years, we have been doing it. But the sisters used to gather together and have prayer. But that's something which is being attacked. So they have changed a little bit. Some people feel bad, they say that we should still do it, but otherwise the hospital should not close down. So we have to weigh the challenges and do it. In some other parts where it's less sensitive, the open ward prayers do continue in many of our mission hospitals. But I think we have to be wise in the way we handle things. As long as one of the things we also done is we have also brought in the government into many of our programs. That has been, it's not trying to do alone. We are the holy ones. We are doing some wonderful program. But when you join hands with the government in partnership and they see you as a credible partner, usually the small complaints they're not bothered about. And that's very important. And also we work through partners rather than us doing all the gospel evangelism ourselves. We have, as I mentioned, the Indian Evangelical Mission working with us. And so we do it. But you are bound to face persecution. That's bound to happen. That's all I want. So one of the things when I was an undergraduate student at Christian Medical College was, what the principles we learned there was, it's important to expose people to the mission field. Unless you do that, missions remains a very abstract idea. It is only an imagination. People have these wrong ideas of what mission field is. And so we were sent as medical students to different parts of India for short durations of 1 to 2 weeks. And we do that, right? Mission exposure projects. But to make it part of the curriculum in a structured way is not that easy, especially when the government and the secular institutions control your curriculum. So we realized that in Vellore, they had carved out a place in the curriculum where they would send us to the mission hospitals and to spend 2 weeks of immersion experience being there. And so when I worked in North India and we came back to Kerala due to some family needs in 2017, the Believers Church Medical College had just started. And so the leadership there and the church were very supportive of us exploring whether we could do something similar, where we send our medical students, many of whom have grown up in very affluent homes in Kerala and abroad in Gulf countries. And so they had never really seen true poverty. They had not seen what people live in many parts of India, which is underprivileged. The impression they had, we gathered in our conversations, was they were brought up in very well-to-do backgrounds. So we thought it's good to expose them by trying to arrange an opportunity for them to go. So we worked out a secondary, we didn't call it the missionary exposure program because more than 50% of our children are not from our Christian faith background. So we called it the secondary hospital because our medical school is a tertiary care or quaternary care center. We wanted to call it a secondary hospital program or SHP as it was labeled in the other institutions where we worked. So this is a secondary hospital program, and we said it's an innovation because in Kerala, none of the medical colleges had ever sent their students to other parts of our country for an exposure. So it is new for our state, but we had taken it from our alma mater where we had trained. And this is called the SHP programs, and we realized it is a beautiful way to expose children to missions and also let them hear the gospel, because sometimes in the parent institution, the alma mater, very often we don't get that many opportunities to tell them the gospel in clear terms. There are a lot of restrictions in various forms. But when they go to the mission field, they go small groups, and they go and spend 2 weeks with some of our senior colleagues, like Dr. Matthew is here from Herbertpur, who is seated here. He was telling me 2 weeks ago that 2 of our children, he was able to share the gospel explicitly and lead them, probably, who knows, whether they have taken the faith step or not, but they heard the gospel crystal clear. And sometimes God takes us out to different situations to speak, and that is an opportunity which is created through this as well. So it's a golden opportunity, I believe, the secondary hospital program for kingdom building. We know that many parts of India, the majority of India, 70%, is still in the rural villages. And our children who come to Kerala, to a very affluent part of our state, don't get these opportunities to see them. So this is an opportunity for 2 weeks during their undergraduate curriculum as part of their community health postings. They were sent for 2 weeks there, and they learned the theory which they learned about massive healthcare gaps was coming out true, that they saw how basic services are there. Mission exposure is a great potential to train, and many countries which are close to traditional missions. In India also, there are huge number of restrictions now coming to pastors and full-time workers coming to these areas. But the doors are still open for doctors and engineers and tent makers to go there to these areas. And so through our lives, we can flesh out the gospel and also lead many to Christ. So these are the various components of medical missions. This is some of our medical students. When they go to these smaller hospitals, they get much more opportunities to do hands-on. Let's say if I were to come as a foreign doctor suddenly to Singapore, to one of the hospitals, nobody will allow me to immediately. You need to get the license, you need to get so many things done. Whereas in Kerala, patients, many of them are not poor, they're affluent, they may not allow students to actually allow them to do a suturing or starting an IV cannula, putting a nasogastric tube. This may not be something. Whereas when there are very few doctors in many of these smaller mission hospitals, students were almost given responsibilities as doctors. Under supervision, they could do many of these procedures, which is very strengthening for the students to feel they are really doctors. No? Otherwise, very often they just watch from a distance. So they got a lot of hands-on experience. And through that, they also worked with a group of people who are highly committed to the mission work. Dr. Matthew, Dr. Prabhu, many of my colleagues have been serving there for more than 10 to 15 years in these mission fields. And they got a chance to one-to-one mentor and talk and have conversations, just simple conversations with these young, bright medicos. Many of them, even though 100 students said, I remember Daniel Johnson said, even if 5 to 10% of our children decide to go back and serve voluntarily, wouldn't that be a great thing, right? Without a compulsion or a bond to go and serve. And that's what we hope we would achieve. And in that process, like Mahika, some of them would come to the saving knowledge of Christ. So this is the secondary hospital program. It is a pioneering initiative in Kerala by our medical college, inspired by the legacy and the models which we saw at both the large Christian medical colleges at Vellore and Ludhiana, where we bring quality medical training. We transfer some of the training to the rural parts of India, where our mission hospitals, which are doing well. We handpick the mission hospitals which have got leaders who have a caring heart and who also have the competence to train our youngsters. And so we designed it for our third-year MBBS students, so they're not very fresh. They already had some exposure, but they go for a taster experience in their third year, where they go and just spend 2 weeks. They live in the campuses, in the mission campuses. And for many of them, it was a new experience to be in North India, that to hear of Bihar. Many of the parents used to call me, since I was a logistic coordinator, where are you sending our children? And they've grown up very comfortably in the United Arab Emirates, or things like that. They have come to Kerala, but now they're very worried. You're sending them to Orissa, to Bihar. We handpicked about 12 to 13 centers. So having to handle and allay the anxieties, of course, it was cloaked. This particular initiative was clothed with prayer. Our chaplains and many of us were praying, Lord, let there not be one mishap. If there was even one mishap, something happens on the travel or anything, this whole program could fold up. Because technically, we are actually speaking by the rules of the various universities. You're supposed to have your students spend their community health posting in a smaller radius. But we had the blessings of the Vice Chancellor, and we told we are sending them to see the real heart of India. The real part of India where healthcare is really lacking. Who knows, some of them may come up. And so he was very happy. In fact, he invited the students after this program to the university to present this particular program to all the principals of the various colleges in Kerala. So we got their official sanction also, in a sense, which was a blessing. And many colleges heard about it. So we divided the students. There were 100 students into 12 groups. So there are about 7 or 8 students per group. 2 weeks they went in the third year of undergraduate training. And then later on, we decided to take another small risk. They said, no, nothing ventured, nothing gained. You have to stick your neck out. If you're going to be very safe, you can be safe, right? But there was a small risk, whether normally in internship is a period, there's a community health posting. In Kerala, because it's a bit like Singapore in some sense, right? Very well developed. If you were to go for your rural posting, there's no real village in Kerala. But if you were to send them to North India, it's better. So we carved out 4 to 5 weeks within their 3 months of community posting and send them to Bihar, Orissa, West Bengal, many parts of India which are underserved. And that was the real good experience, because now the students are well trained. Unlike in the third year when they are just raw, this time they went with skills. And many of these hospitals lack junior doctors, enough numbers. So they were actually put onto the job straight away. They had to go and manage patients under the supervision, ask doubts. But suddenly many of them said, I had lost my zest for doing my medical training, but now I felt like a doctor. I really feel re-inspired to become a doctor. And that's the testimonies which we heard from many of them when they came back, and we had a debriefing and a feedback time. So I'll show you a pictures. I'm going to take you through from 2018, we started the secondary hospital program. It's been 6 years running. All our 100 students go. These are some of the pictures. We have a pointer? No, we don't have a pointer, laser pointer. Okay. So there's pictures of one of our groups which went to Chhattisgarh, which is one of the tribal parts of India on the upper border. You see in the center there are 2 doctors. They are some of our senior most doctors. One is a cardiologist, one is a nephrologist, who lead our departments of nephrology and cardiology. So one of my jobs is also to get our faculty sensitized to what the needs of it. Many of them again have not been to North India. So it is not only a student program, it is also a faculty orientation program. So because our faculty need to know where they're training their children who will be going out later. That is again a trip in Tamil Nadu, Dr. John Jacob, one of my old friends, teaching them about rural healthcare. This is Dr. Uttam. I'm sorry for the quality of slides. It's not projecting as well as I thought, and that is in Madhepura in Bihar. This is a very big hospital, mission hospital in Assam, in near the Tripura border, quite close to Bangladesh. And this is our students who visited the Makunda Christian Leprosy and General Hospital. Many of our students had never seen leprosy. It's a disease in the Bible, or it's disease relegated to the archives. But we do see leprosy still in many parts of India. And our students had the opportunity to examine and see patients who have leprosy with nerve deformities for the first time in their lives. They saw tetanus, which is a disease we think is gone. But in rural parts of India, you see people coming generalized tetanus, not because they don't have the vaccination, but maybe they don't take the vaccination in the primary schedule as children. That led them. So they got to see the books, diseases in the textbook firsthand. And that has left a strong impression on their hearts. And some of them were visibly moved by why people have to suffer so much when we are so blessed. And that is the feedback which many of them said, which I think God stirs their hearts, through these particular postings. So this is a large hospital, charitable hospital in the Karimganj district of Assam, serving 3 varieties of patients. And I worked there for 2 years, so I was able to orient these children before they went. Bengali Hindus, Muslim communities from Bangladesh who have come over as refugees, as well as tribal communities from Tripura. I'll show you a few videos which are all 1 minute long, so don't worry, it's not going to be long videos, so that we will stick within the time frame. And I will just take you a tour of this mission hospital so you get a feel of how it is like. Yeah. Shots of the children there, and the middle picture, you see a girl saying the victory sign. That is actually street children for which once a week the which like-minded? I'm just yeah. So I didn't quite get the question. Mingle with like-minded Christians, is it?
She's asking about networking.
Yeah.
About having
Okay. So if I understand right, I think how do you network with like-minded? So many of us over the years have developed networks and friendships, right? Like how Brother Joshua Tan developed a network with us many years ago when we went to China for a mission exposure visit. And that connection led to many other spin-offs. And today from the Believers Church, from EHA, from Velo, we have had many friends come. So we just spread the network wider. Sometimes we have good friends even in the non-Christian setups, people who are willing to partner with us, and credible people. And I remember in Roxall we had one of our former missionaries used to talk to one of the persons who was not even a Christian, but he heard about the good work, and then he decided to give a large sum of money to rebuild the entire institution. Today, actually, for every year, he's been giving a large sums of money to rebuild. So I think God gives the connections. It's a divine connections which happen. And then for the medical students, one of the things which happens is many of them have fellowship groups in various colleges. And there is a national body called the Evangelical Medical Fellowship of India, the Christian Medical Fellowship in Kerala. These are groups where the like-minded children come for fellowship. And there they hear these stories of the missionaries. Even myself, I remember when I was in Velo, there were missionaries from one of the Madhya Pradesh who came and shared their life stories. And those stories stuck in our hearts. And then when they came for times of decision making at the end of their graduation, where to go, these memories, these thoughts came, and these organizations like EMFI and all tend to channel these children to come and work in mission institutions. Thank you. Yes. Anybody else? Yes.
Just now you mentioned there's a hospital where you all do a ministry for the street kids.
Street kids, yeah.
Where you all invite them every week.
Yeah.
So, because this is entirely not related to medical, right? So,
Yeah, it's not related.
this is entirely not related to medical. So,
True.
how does the hospital actually think about it? Because you are doing something not medical related.
Right.
And you are willing to invest this in it.
Right. So the hospital's prime agenda is to take care of health, right? But there are many social determinants of health as well, which will affect health indirectly. So these street children are just, many of them don't go to school, they're school dropouts. And so one of the physicians in Roxall, her name is Dr. Sheena. Sheena felt a burden for these street children who are wandering the streets. And some of these children work as bonded labor in the small shops as well, because their parents are in debt and these children are working for these people free of cost. And so seeing the plight of these children, she said, at least I want to give them a one good day in the week. And so she brought them in on her own effort. And the management generally, when it sees a godly motive behind some of these initiatives, we usually will open up our spaces. We open up our spaces for many similar activities for like-minded individuals to do. So I think this is because one person took ownership of that and did it. That's how it worked. But we have a lot of similar things, like human trafficking. How is it directly connected to that? Not really. It's an area, it's a dangerous area to get involved because there are a lot of other people, there are a lot of backlash. But that's an area which was a need in that part of Bihar, where many women were being trafficked, young girls especially, being trafficked to the red light areas in various parts of our country. You would like to say anything? Right? Request Dr. Daniel Johnson to say a few comments.
Thank you. I think I'll address a little bit of what it is, but it's just mainly for prayer. Like Dr. Matthew, Dr. Philip, we all come from, actually, we basically belong to the same state from where we've all spread out to the different parts of India. Like he said, India is a continent. Don't think it as a country. Because every state has its own language, it's its own kind of culture. They say if you travel 150 kilometers from one place to the next, you are reaching another culture. So it's a continent, literally speaking, in that sense. Having said that, we come from this hospital, the Believers Hospital, and that's how we are all connected. But the hospital was started by the church, which is called Believers Eastern Church, and we have about 12,000 churches all around the world, but primarily 4,000 plus just in India. Out of that, in our state of Kerala, we only have about 60, which means 94% is outside. So what Dr. Matthew said and what Dr. Philip said, and the question which was asked, persecution we face every week. I'm the general secretary of our church. I get reports every day, so we keep on getting. And so how can you pray? Please understand what I think Dr. Matthew was telling was in the past. Let's say we can figure it out to almost 14 years, maybe less than that, is when things actually became a little more clear, let me say, in that sense. Christianity is looked at as a Western religion. That is one of the major problems which we face because we are not Western, we are Eastern, that whole culture and tradition and everything is from there. But the moment you actually look at from the Western side, it is seen as something which is going to destroy your culture, is going to kind of undermine who you are as a group of people. This is the perspective. It's like a different glasses, you put on a different glasses and this is the perspective which is seen. So that's why, as Dr. Matthew was saying, there's a wheat and a chaff which is being changed. You don't find these mega crusades happening anymore. It will not happen also. In a way, we are happy it is not happening. Because that is up here, changes happen out here. But even between all of these things, the church is growing. It is really growing. And I was telling somebody yesterday, if you have somebody who is under at the age of 18 who wants to get baptized, in our church, if their parents are not in the faith, we don't allow them. We say you wait, because after 18, you have to write down in your own script saying that it's my own kind of thing. Otherwise, what will happen is actually they and us, everybody gets into trouble. All of us get in trouble. So the other thing which we do is that, like Dr. Matthew said, please, we don't record these and give it outside, and we don't give reports, this, and all of those things happening, because reports look good from far. The person there is going to get really, really into trouble. And in that sense, we almost, as a church, we try and tell from the Western side, please don't put up reports which is actually going to show the other faith in bad light. And the Bible is very clear. When you lift up Christ, he will attract everyone to him. That does not mean you have to put down somebody else. So please pray for much, much wisdom, and it's a combined effort. Nobody can. It's vast. We have I think we have overtaken China in number of people, and whether we are proud of it or not, that's a different question. But that many people are there, so the opportunities are huge. So pray that actual real mission work, which is continuously happening on the ground level, village level, person to person level, it will continue and it will keep on going. Wisdom for everyone, from a believer to a priest to a pastor to an evangelist, all of them. So, being medical professionals, our hospital is meant as an apex institution from where young girls and boys can be trained and sent out to these places. That's the point. But where we are, like I said, in our backyard, nobody can come and hit us. So we are safe in that sense. From there, we can send to all of these places. So it almost looks like an army base from where we kind of go, in that sense. So pray for us, pray for we are not the only ones. There's so many who are there. But pray for wisdom. If nothing else can happen, just simply wisdom for who are there in the forefront.